Right, welcome everybody. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Wow. So firstly, I'd like to applaud to you for making the effort and time to attend our very first Scrum Master in Singapore. So let's give us yourself a good clap.
Great! Alberto from Nigeria.
Good start, yeah? Wow. Oh, okay. So my name is Adrian. I'm an agile coach working for Thales, along with my good friends and maybe one who have just do this checking game with you, Joshua. And also lastly, Aloysius. Yeah. So four of us are good four musketeers. All right. So we're going to kickstart our first session. So without further ado, one, is it okay for you to share the screen?
Sure.
Thank you. Yep, so the PowerPoint slides, yep. Yep, so just now, what we did was a brief self-introduction. And just to give everybody a heads up, right, this session will be recorded. Yep, so if there is any concerns that you don't wish to be in the video, feel free to tell us. Or the second option is that you can just kindly turn off the video. But of course, as agile practitioners, agile coaches, Scrum Masters, let us have a good practice of turning on the video so at least you get to see your name and the face. Yep, it's very important, right, to have that face-to-face interaction. All right, so the very first topic that we're going to do today is swarming, right? One of the Scrum patterns. But of course, we need to have some context. So the first 10 minutes, we will discuss about what and why swarming. And last, we're going to have a workshop, all right, for 50 minutes. So this Scrum Master Singapore, or should I say this meetup that we're going to have, is an interactive, right? It's a two-way traffic. It's not a one-way way. You came in for a meetup, you listen, go back. No, it's about we trying to contribute and co-creating. So I don't want to divert so much because we're going to touch that a bit on the opening stage. So we're going to explain that slide later. And lastly, before we wrap up, we will share with you what is the next step or what's the next coming event for Scrum Master in Singapore. All right, so without further ado, so let's move on to the next slide. Right, so one, if you don't mind. All right, so this is opening. So it has all of us just put in our name, your role, and the company you're working for. So I'd like to applaud to you. And for those who have joined us or hasn't put in the name, the role, and the company you're working for, feel free. I will surely encourage you to do so, right? Okay, so can I move on to the next slide, please? All right, so how does this Scrum Master in Singapore came about? So it was started off with this idea before of us saying that, hey, you know, all of us have been, the four of us, right? One, Joshua, Aloysius, and myself say that, hey, you know, there's a lot of meetups coming up in Singapore, but all of them are quite similar in the sense that is the founder or the co-creator just say, okay, we decided to do this, but we don't find that it's quite interactive. And what of the value proposition that Scrum Master in Singapore is trying to do is we want to co-create this playbook with you. So we're going to talk about it in the following slides. So this idea came off last year, November, right? And we officially announced this meetup group last month. And our very first event was to have this co-APEC event with Dr. Jeff Sunderland, right? With other agile meetups from Malaysia, Indonesia, China, Taiwan, and lastly, Turkey, right? So if you're interested to know the recordings, you can just feel free to tell us and we'll share you the link. And now, where you are right now is our second meetup, right? So moving forward, this meetup or this Scrum Master Singapore is we're going to have one meetup per month, right? So there's the history. And one, if you don't mind, can you click on the next? So why are we doing this? What's in for us, right? So there are three things. First is to contribute to the Agile community in Singapore because each of us has at least 5 to 7 years working in the Agile domain. And we want to contribute back And what do you mean by contributing back is to learn and share from each other. Maybe there are some perspective that we haven't came across. Maybe there are some individuals who just step into this agile domain, or maybe perhaps, you just attended your CSPO course or your CSN course from Scrum Alliance, from the org, and you need that helping hand, someone to guide you. Because what you have learned is always in the school context, and you want someone to guide you. This is one way, one platform you can leverage on us. And next is to grow together. So what do you mean by grow? Is to create or co-create this open source Scrum Mastery playbook that you can use in your company. And you ask, do I have to pay royalty? No, it's open source, it's free. It's up to you to decide how to use it, when to use it. But what's important is we want to co-create, review, right? That's the origin, the only intent. So this is a brief history of Scrum Master in Singapore. And can I have one to share with us in the next slide, please? All right. So for this current sprint, in fact, we restarted our current sprint last Monday, and we are running a 1-month sprint. And now we are inviting you to help us to co-create this playbook with us, right? And the team members for this sprint are 4, right? Joshua, Juan, Aloysius, and myself. We are the 4 Scrum team members. And of course, if you are like interested or you want to clarify and ask more questions on how can I be part of this Scrum team members, feel free to stay back at the end of this session, and we have a short 10-15 minutes, and we shall see how can we partner this together to create this playbook with you. Or if you want to be part of the core Scrum team, feel free to stay back for 10-15 minutes. Our doors are always open. Yeah. All right. So Juan, can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. All right. So earlier on, we talked about Scrum patterns or swarming. So I'd like to open the door to the participants. What do we know about pattern? When we talk about Scrum pattern, maybe you ask yourself, what is a pattern? Anyone in the call right now, feel free to unmute us and explain what is pattern. Anyone?
Pattern is a model.
Okay, pattern is a model. All right. Anyone else? What else?
A pattern is a series of interrelated inputs and outputs for a given scenario that you could use.
All right. So I'm hearing models, series of inputs and output. Anyone else in this call would like to contribute?
Similar events happening.
Familiar events. Wow, interesting. All right, familiar events. Can you kindly help us to explain, what is familiar events to you?
I said similar events happening.
Similar event.
Or similar situations, perhaps.
So we heard a lot of this keyword coming out, like similarity, similar, right? Looks like a pattern, isn't it? Why? Because we are humans, right? We like consistency. We don't like drastic changes, right? We want consistency so that we can predict, we feel safe, right? So what is a pattern? So let's take a step back. All right, so Juan, can you click on the next? Right, so if you look at a dictionary, it means it's a noun. It's a repeated decorative design. You're right. Similarity, similar series, input, output. Yes, it's repetitive. And
ritual.
Sorry?
A ritual.
A ritual, yeah, a ritual. So coming back to Scrum pattern. What is Scrum pattern? So can I have one? We'll click on the next. Yep. Can I click? Yep. Scrum patterns is a collection of personal centuries of experience with adopting Scrum in various. So it is like a playbook, isn't it? It's like a Bible, a knowledge, a thesaurus, a dictionary, right? And it extracts the essence, whereby, as I mentioned, we are humans. We like things to be predictable. someone has done it. Can I use it? So what happens, this Scrum pattern is basically extracting the essence of Scrum into well-documented solution of certain problems in certain contexts. Because as all of us are agile practitioners ourselves, we have learned or undergo training from Scrum Masters, product owner. What you have learned is in the textbook, but how well can you apply it? We do not know. Why? Every organization works differently. You have the cultural context, you have the human aspect. How do we absorb these three components? So that's why we have this Scrum pattern, which been documented, is available online. You don't have to buy it. And how do you get it? So why can I encourage you to click on next? So there are two. So the first thing, click on next. It's scrumbook.org. So you can click on the link. The next one is a book. A Scrum book by the Scrum Patterns group. Right? So there are two sources or avenues that you can read more in details, because we do not want to deep dive all the single patterns. Right? Today we just talking about swarming, and this is the first pattern. So if anyone who is interested, feel free to click on scrumbook.org, or you can purchase a book.